We are live.
Well, hello. Welcome to 2025. Welcome to January. Welcome to Daytona. This seems to be the big track of January every year in iRacing. And I would say welcome back to me. It's kind of a bit weird to welcome myself back, but I am back indeed. Kevin Galvin here, back on Gantry TV, back commentating on the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup. This is round 6 of the RTA season, presented, of course, by us at Gantry TV. So it's Tuesday evening. You know where you are, you know where you need to be, and you are exactly where you should be for the latest round of what is an enthralling series. Obviously, slightly delayed from the last round due to issues beyond our control. So quite a big gap for these drivers. They've had a Christmas. They've loaded up on the sherry trifle, the Christmas pudding, the cheese, the turkey and ham. And hopefully none of them will be overweight as we head into this. I suppose look forward to the month ahead in iRacing. The IMSA series is officially at Daytona this week. We have the Daytona 24 course coming up. We have the Roar coming up this weekend. So a track that, no doubt, if you're watching, you probably know ultimately over the last couple of months. And an opportunity for these guys to really show us all how it's driven. A lot of changes since I've last commentated. Obviously, I was here in the summer for some of the last season, but properly back from my long séjour around the world. Didn't quite get as far as Daytona. Did get to New York, but not quite as far as Daytona Beach. So that's still on the agenda for me. But a lot of different faces, a lot of different drivers, but a lot of the same names. And particularly as we look at the standings table in a couple of seconds' time, a lot of the same names you expect to see are once again up the top of the standings. Here we are. So this is the Motorsport.ie, as we said, LMP2 Cup. Standings after round 5 last round at Silverstone. Seems like an age away now when you think back of it. And Dylan McClements, the young Dylan McClements, finding himself in a position with 3 rounds to go now, potentially winning this championship and his first RTA championship, am I right in saying. Dylan on 344 points. Jason Smith, he knows a thing or two about winning RTA championships. He's on 316, followed by Rory O'Shea, then Ronan Darty, then Brandon McGaughan, you can correct me, on 255. Very, very fast driver. We'll get to talking about him in a little bit. A new driver to my eyes, but certainly somebody who's excelled in the RTA season this season. Peter McCann in 6, obviously our feature race winner at Silverstone last time around and in great form at the moment. Then my personal Twitch stalker and another very, very quick driver, Sean McClements, 219 points, followed by, surprisingly, Jordan Kelly, MIA at the beginning of the season, but seems to have picked up some form, 212 on the board and in 8th position. Unusual to see him so far down. Then Kevin Joyce in 9th on 207 and Logan Hoy on 198. So that's where it stands. Still very much up in the air, particularly when you see Jason Smith's former success, I suppose. Definitely has an opportunity to try and take this championship, but has quite a bit left. I'm going to bring in Ronan Hederman here. Ronan, our usual race director and part-time commentator, even more so in my absence. We've been really working him on the overtime. Just, I know I'm not asking you to individual stats or race results or anything, but obviously you've seen a lot more of this championship than I have this year. What are your general thoughts about what we've seen so far?
It's been an amazing season per se. You've missed quite a lot of action, Kevin, in your absence, but yeah, I think it was really looking like it was going to be an absolute dominance by the young Dylan McClements, and it's been one round that has really turned the tables for Dylan in particular. Um, his last race was an absolute disaster, if I do recall. Like you said, it's so long ago since we've actually been racing, and but yeah, I still kind of favour him, but Jason is absolutely on his heels in every single circumstance. So I would be keeping an eye on the top of that standings table.
Yeah, it should be really interesting one. Great to see Dylan obviously getting into real life racing now a lot more, and this generation, I mean, Somebody, as we see, that's the 98 car. Is it the 88 car? That's Dylan himself, actually, giving us a little bit of a, what would I say, a little bit of a flair, maybe, as we're talking about him, in the fuchsia and turquoise coloured Dallara P217, which we'll talk about in a second as well. Big changes with this car over the course of the season, but I think it's a great opportunity for Dylan mentally. Like we talk about that, the driving is sim, but the racing is real. And this is a great opportunity, Ronan, for him to prove himself mentally that he has what it takes to close out championships like this against some very strong competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dylan is, between Dylan and Sean, they're an absolute testament to what can be achieved in the sim. And yeah, and I without being very biased, I think we always talk about Dylan, but like it's truly his age, and to be racing the way he's racing is like, I would love to see him in an actual car.
Yeah, it would be great to see him, just to see what he's potentially capable of. No doubt we'll see that in future, and I'm sure those who attend Mondello regularly will be seeing his name a lot more going forward, as well as Jordanstown, as we get started on the flying laps here. 15 minutes, not a very long lap around Daytona. Around, I'm gonna say around a minute 30-ish, maybe a little bit more in the LMP2s. So plenty of opportunity for these guys to get some laps in. Ronan Doherty going purple in the second sector there. He's another guy to watch out for, as Dylan has already pulled out of his first flying lap. So he's going to wait for the traffic to go by, maybe feeling a little bit of the pressure. And we saw the same happen with Jordan Kelly earlier on as well. He's gone back to pit now, and he's going to give it another go as Dylan McClements. Maybe not quite happy with something in the car, not entirely sure, but yeah, great opportunity for him to prove to himself. And they say winning breeds winning; it becomes a habit, and it's a cliche, but it's true. And there's no reason why winning in a championship like this in the sim can't give you, or shouldn't give you supreme confidence going forward racing in real life, and just that sense of competition. As we see the first bunch of cars crossing the line here, it looks like Ronan Doherty is pulled out of that one. So I think the first one to cross the line will be the number 56 car, which is Connor Melia, and he's giving a really nice tow as well to number 26 car, which is Jason Smith, who went below the line there. I'm not sure what the rules are on that when it comes to RTA, but definitely went below the line. If that was NASCAR, it would be very much frowned upon. If it was WEC, it pretty much would be cancelled, because you cut track limits. So it's interesting to see what the stewards will do indeed to deal with that. So some of the times coming in here, Leo Richardson, who we believe is actually Jeff Richardson. So we're not sure whether it's Leo or Jeff, but one of the Richardsons is clocked in as 37.8. But Jason Smith leading for the moment. Be interested to see what gets said about that lap over the course of the rest of this qualifying session. But 15 minutes, as we said, it's an interesting track. Daytona, like, obviously huge swathes of it are, it's one of those tracks, actually, Ronan, we were talking about this the other day. Obviously Wildfire, we're getting ready for the Daytona ourselves, and probably a track where I think most iRacers have put the most amount of laps in, if they're focusing on the endurance side, given how big Daytona is, and given the big gap between Daytona and other special events. People tend to have more lead-in time to Daytona than other special events. But it's one of those tracks that, despite the fact that it's 2/3 kind of oval, you would think for all the world it would be a kind of a rubbish track to drive, flat, infield, just another infield oval. But there's something about it that's really addictive. I don't know what it is about driving the track, but there's so many challenging corners. You look at the Le Mans chicane, you look at the International Horseshoe, which requires that late exit. There's a lot of very kind of deviously challenging corners, I think, and I think that kind of is what keeps people coming back to this track.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can definitely say from my endurance side, I've definitely done the most amount of laps on Daytona. Daytona, then probably Spa, then the Nordschleife. But absolutely, I think it's a testament to I like the drivers, like that can put in the amount of time that they put in. And it's funny. I don't think actually the majority of people that actually race in this series are endurance racers. So it'll be interesting to see actually where they land. Um, but yeah, I I I think I race in special events as a whole. Daytona's quite a special one. Um, you kind of tend to have lapses in concentration very easily on this track. I don't know if you'd agree with me on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, particularly it's kind of a different thing. I feel like when you talk about the Nordschleife and concentration, you almost get sucked in you're almost kind of semi-consciously driving around the Nordschleife, and then you kind of forget where you are, and you kind of get sucked in. Daytona isn't that, but it is that kind of you're pounding laps out. Particularly if you're running something like a GT3, as we see, there's a couple of spinners there. That is Jordan Kelly getting it all wrong. He's actually our leader at the moment, clocking a 37.3, but getting turn 5 all wrong there back onto the oval. It's a real tricky corner, that one. Particularly, you want to apply the accelerator as quickly as possible because you know you have the oval section ahead, but there's just so little grip because you're obviously transitioning between the road course onto the oval. It's a lot more difficult. But yeah, it definitely is one of those tracks where you get kind of lost in the zone, particularly going around the ovals, and all of a sudden you get a cluster of traffic around you, and you kind of get snapped back into it. And it's about how you can kind of deal with that. I would say, in this sense, given it's a single class series, less likely to have that issue. Maybe perhaps with lap traffic, hopefully they will move out of the way. But certainly in multi-class racing, particularly if you're, say, like I said, in a GT3, you're 50 minutes into a stint, you've been on the oval for 20 or 25 minutes of that, all of a sudden you have 2 or 3 prototypes come up, or 2 or 3 different classes of cars, and you kind of get thrown into this situation where you kind of need to be back on the ball, having basically just chilled out for the previous whatever 10 to 15 minutes. So looking at the standings at the moment, qualifying standings, Jordan Kelly, as we said, clocking in fastest. Then we have Jason Smith and Dylan McClements. So Smith jumping the McClements at the moment. Just to remind you of the format, qualifying sets the first race of the evening, which is a 10-minute sprint race. The top 15 then of the sprint race race 2 gets set by race 1. It's a 15-minute race, and the grade in race 1 sets the order for race 2. And then race 3, we swap everything around for the feature race. Top 8 gets swapped. 8 goes to 1, 1 goes to 8, and 9 onwards stay where they are from race 2. And we have 20 more minutes to see who can get it through. Drive-through penalties at 15x, disqualification at 20x. That may come into play, Ronan, with the bus stop. Notoriously difficult, particularly, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but these cars low on grip since the iRacing update, and very tricky to navigate through that sequence of corners.
Yeah, drivers not entirely happy with that mid-season update our mid-season update, we should say, and struggling to get the tires to temp the car, as you saw there in the opening laps. Guys really struggling in the corners to get the power down on exit, whereas the car seemed to behave a lot better beforehand. Is it going to affect us here? Absolutely. I'm predicting bus stop mayhem on cold tires in that first lap, but again, I think the majority of people have jumped in practice last night, so I'm really crossing fingers that people will be paying attention as they cross that bus stop.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, it's one of those things where, and again, again, talking about the endurance side of things, this is something that you're going to see in the next couple of weeks when we approach Daytona, as we see going off there is the number 56 car. That is, if I get my timings up here, Colomelia. Indeed, in P10 at the moment, clocking at 138.5, but he will not approve on that. And he's running out of time now, is Conor Melia. Interesting to see that he's decided to carry on, because we'll see what state his tires are in, given he just warmed them up and then went off into the grass. So interesting to see that. We have somebody go back to the top of the timing tables. That's Jordan Kelly putting in another quickest lap, 137.385 for Kelly, who is absolutely flying at the moment, and he is halfway through yet another lap. So it'll be interesting to see whether he's carried enough fuel to have another one. There's a few people on an out lap. Jason Smith and Dylan McClements, Conor Melia also out on an out lap. And Ronan coming out of pit exit along with Sean McClements. So a few still to set their fast time, and this is kind of where push comes to shove and see where it really happens. Is Jordan Kelly 137.385, going slightly quicker, and this time opening up the gap at the top to 700ths of a second. But yeah, the bus stop, you accumulate. The bus stop is one of those corners where you accumulate it. You're trying to push because you're coming out of one very fast section, you're coming into another very fast section, so the onus is to try and brake as late as you can and yet try to carry as much speed as you can out. And it's very easy to quite literally and figuratively cut corners there to try and maximize particularly your exit. You'll see guys cutting that last corner very fine. Now, I remember 2 seasons ago iRacing trying to introduce the sausage curve that had been introduced on that right hand inside corner, and it proving a bit of a disaster with the physics in the game. Certainly some spaceships being launched from Florida, a different part of Florida than we normally see. But now that's been removed, so still there's a temptation there to push. With 15x over a 10-minute, 15-minute race, you may not see it, but if somebody's flaunting the bus stop section and collecting those instant points and also collecting slowdowns, it will hurt them over the course of the race. So we're having our eyes now on the number 18 car, and that is, let me see, that's Jonathan Hollywood, who's bottom of the timing tables at the moment with a 141.6. He'll be hoping to try and better that. Jamal Gondor above him, then TJ Taft, Tony Stack, Philip Upson, Diarmuid Toomey, Simon Hutchins, Logan Hoying, Peter McCann, and Conor Melia in 11th. As we look again at Dylan McClements, our series championship leader at the moment, going into T1 and starting what will potentially be his last fast lap. Depends on how much he has fueled, whether he's going to try and get 2 fast laps in at the moment, flying laps. As we go back with Jordan Kelly here, the top of the standings, can he improve on that 137.385? He goes 1 clear, I think, 137.3. No, it's slightly over, actually, 1/10 over. So he stays at 137.385 for the moment. So it's Jordan Kelly, Ronan Doherty, Jeff Richardson, we think, then Sean McGoldrick, Dylan McClements, Jason Smith, Rory O'Shea, Sean McClements, Brandon McGaughan, and Kevin Joyce rounding out your top 10 for the moment. But obviously, a minute and a half left in qualifying. Plenty of time for guys to get a time in. Plenty about to cross the line. Jason Smith, I suppose, the most interesting of those. Number 26 car, he's crossed the eyes. 137.3 is what he's trying to beat. Don't think he'll get there though, will he, Jason Smith? No, he won't. Doesn't better his time, stays in 6th. So Jason behind Dylan McClements for the moment. As we look at that young man in your picture at the moment, our series leader Dylan McClements going through the bus stop. He seems to have carried a lot of speed through that. Very hard to tell when you don't have the onboard, but he certainly is picking up quite a lot of speed. Now, he hasn't improved on any of his sectors so far, so it doesn't seem like it's going to be great for Dylan to try and pick P1, but he'll be trying to get a little bit further up. But I think, yeah, 138.6, that won't do it for Dylan. So nobody improving, Ronan, interestingly enough. Normally we see time starting to go down. I wonder, is the track starting to get warmer? Is it actually getting more difficult to put in a good time? Because none of these guys have improved with their latest flying laps.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe the guys have kind of figured out that it's, the fastest lap is maybe the second or third lap out on these tires, and that the tires start to wear in a bit faster. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely familiar with this car, especially since the updates. So it is definitely unusual to see those top runners not even changing around a lot. Like normally we'll see quite an intense battle between Jordan, Dylan, Ronan, and Jason, but it seemed to be fairly static for the majority of that.
Yeah, very static, particularly at the end as we finish qualifying. So Jordan Kelly will start us off in P1, Ronan Doherty, then in P2. That rounds out the front of the grid. Then the second row, we have Jeff Richardson and Sean McGoldrick. Behind them is Dylan McClements, our championship leader, and Jason Smith, second place in the championship. So very interesting to see 1 and 2 in the championship, starting 5 and 6 in our opening heat. Then Rory O'Shea, P7, Sean McClements, P8, Brandon McGaughan, and Peter McCann rounding out the top 10. Only 20 in the field this evening. Bit of a post-Christmas lull, unfortunately, but hopefully we will have them back for the final 2 races of the season. Conor Melia in P11, joined by Kevin Joyce, then Logan Hoy and Simon Hutchings on the 7th row. Diarmuid Toomey and Tony Stack, Philip Upson and TJ Taft. and Jamal Gandor and Jonathan Hollywood rounding out our standing. So almost 4 seconds between the front and back, but less than a second in the top 12. Should make for a really interesting race. Particularly when we look at, as we said, Ronan, 5th and 6th, bit of pressure on Dylan and Jason to try and make a move, but it's going to be difficult, particularly in this opening couple laps, to try and stay safe. As you say, with the new update and the cars making them a lot more slippery to manage, particularly I think track temp now is 42 degrees, so it's going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, it's gonna be extremely tough on these first laps. And like I said, it's going to be the guys with experience and the guys who have put the practice in that are really going to shine here. I think anyone that is lacking in that, I think, is going to get caught out or end up causing a massive accident.
So it's an all-American Irish race here. We've had a lot of Irish expats going over and back between the two countries, but a little bit of a celebration of American manufacturing and American racecraft here. We're at Daytona in the Delaras. We have a Chevy pickup truck guiding us around to the first corner, but we have two Irish on the front row. That is Jordan Kelly and Ronan Darty. It'd be very interesting. These guys know each other exceptionally well. Oh, we already have a spinner. We have a spinner out the back. That's Jason Smith. A big mistake there from Jason Smith. P2 spins out, warming up the tires. Oh, that's going to be a huge impact on the championship. He's going to have to go way back down the end, and he's taken out Sean McClements. He's going to try and get back in file here as Jason Smith, but probably carrying damage and certainly warming up the tires. He's trying to get in behind Dylan McClements. That was a very strange incident. Very, very unusual to see somebody spinning out, and not really sure how much warming the tires will actually do here as the Chevy pickup truck pulls off and we get ready. We've already had quite a lot of incident. We haven't even got to the first corner, and we're going red, and already Jordan Kelly is on the accelerator. He's left Ronan Darty and Jeff Richardson for dust. He's gone on the outside. He feels comfortable enough that he's going to have the run in as we see Dylan McClements pinned on the inside here. Let's see if they all get through safely. There's already a lockup in the background. Peter McCann has lost a place. Jason Smith is up to 5th now. Oh, we see somebody waving and roaring, and that's Rory O'Shea in the Hyperi number 1 car. Unfortunately, Ronan, and another spinner there in the background. That's the number 17 car, I think. Am I right in saying? No, that's Simon Hutchins in the 37 car. So 2 already off. We see smoke again, more in the background. That's Jordan Kelly from the lead. Jordan Kelly going off in the International Horseshoe. Interested to see what happens there. We'll have to keep an eye on it, but Jeff Richardson now leading the race, and Jason Smith again going off. This has been a nightmare start for Jason Smith. P2 in the championship. He's already spun out heading into the lap, and now Jason Smith and Jordan Kelly reunite down the back of the grid. Very unusual for both of those to make a mistake early on, but for Dylan McClements, our championship leader, great start for him, P3, but also seeing his championship rival drop 7 places. So as we cross the line, it's Jeff Richardson leading Ronan Darty, leading Dylan McClements, and then Sean McGoldrick. Biggest winners on that opening lap, Jamal Gandor. He's up 9 places. And biggest loser is Jordan Kelly by far, down 13 places from P2 down to P14 now, as we get across what was a very instant-filled first lap. There's Jamal Gandor. We spoke about him earlier, not up 9 places. He's all over the back of Peter McCann in the 13 VRA car. Peter obviously winning in Silverstone last week, so he'll be hoping to carry that form into this week, but has a lot of work to do as there's a battle at the top. Jeff Richardson on the inside, Ronan Darty on the inside, Jeff Richardson on the outside, and Ronan completing the switchback. Jeff getting it all wrong, too late in the brakes, losing out in P1 and could potentially lose P2. He does indeed. Dylan McClements now slipping into P2 ahead of Jeff Richardson, making the most of that instant between himself and Ronan Darty. Dylan and Ronan obviously know each other very, very well. DDR teammates, and they have the front 2 now locked out. Ronan, it's been a great start for the DDR boys, and particularly for Dylan McClements.
Yeah, that is Dylan true and true, just taking advantage of carnage on lap 1, and by God did we have carnage. Like, that is the worst, not just opening lap but also parade lap. Jason to spin like that is, and I'm probably going to get crucified for saying this, but very amateur. I know these cars are hard to control, but wow, that's a lot to happen. And then to add insult to injury, then having that spin as well, not great. But yeah, these guys at the front taking advantage. Jeff losing some places there. I could see Ronan setting off into the sunset here too.
Yeah, I could definitely see the two, and I could see the two of them working together. To be honest, and there's quite a big gap now, as you say, even between Jeff. Like you're talking a two over 2 second gap, 2.2 seconds now is the gap between Jeff Richardson in third and Sean McGoldrick in fourth, and then another 2 seconds as Jeff's going to go around the outside of Dylan McClemens here. Can he make it stick? He already went deep into T1 last time this happened, lost out. He'd be a brave boy to try it a second time around. Actually, it was the inside last time, should I say. He's going to go around the outside now. Can Dylan get it stopped? He can. Good job there from the young McClemens, our championship leader, showing why he is in a commanding position in this championship. Very professionally staying down the inside, well defended against Jeff Richardson. As we see a big launch from Kevin Joyce down the inside, getting big overspeed on Brandon McGoughan, and let's see if he can make this happen. McGoughan is a very celebrated driver himself, the Ballymena native, Formula Ford 1600s race winner in the UK, multiple race winner in GB4, so his huge amount of real race pedigree. Has Kevin Joyce to contend with here, though. There's Colin Melia now going down the inside of Logan Hoy, and Peter McCann getting himself involved in that as well. Big battle here going on. Melia leading McCann, no, Melia leading Hoy, and Hoy leading McCann, I think. I'm not sure what our standings tables are there. Hoy getting very, very tight to the inside. Managing to keep speed. I thought he might get an overspeed there from Peter McCann, given he'd made a slight mistake in that corner, but has done enough just about. There is obviously slipstreaming that does go on here, as you can see Conor Melia trying to break the toe, but again, in these LMP2 cars, not enormous or not massive enough, particularly in that back straight section as you come up to the bus stop, to give people a real chance. Here's Jordan Kelly now. He's trying to make the places back. He's overtaken TJ Taff, and he'll be annoyed at himself for that mistake at the International Horseshoe, just going up and off the back. And that's the thing about these cars. Without ABS, if you make a mistake on the brakes, the cold tires to begin with, very, very easy to lock up. And then once you go out the back, that's a big challenge from Jeff Richardson, getting door to door with Dylan McClemens. He's going to force McClemens out wide. Now he's got the move stuck. They're going too wide through this S section, and McClemens has the inside now for the International Horseshoe. Great driving there from Dylan McClemens. Thought he had lost out there on the outside of Jeff Richardson, thought he was going to cede the place, but McClemens didn't want to let go. He knows he has Sean McGoldrick right behind him as well, looking for an opportunity to capitalise on any weakness. Dylan refusing to let Jeff Richardson by, and instead holds on to second place. Great driving there. Here is Jason Smith trying to get down the inside, and yeah, Ronan saying an amateur mistake on the formation lap, and I think Jason would admit to himself, but given the driver of Jason's pedigree, when you look at his previous winners in RTA, I mean, Jason himself is he's a 6.4 rated iRacing driver. Like, he's a very, very talented driver. It just goes to show you how difficult these cars really are to drive, and how much, as Ronan said, guys are struggling to find really the limit of adhesion in these Dallara P217s since the mid-season update. Here's Peter McCann now making his way through the bus stop, and behind him is Jamal Gandor with Jordan Kelly all over his backside. Jordan's going to get the run here, but he will have to stay on the outside, and that is a feature here of the oval at Daytona. You can get the overspeed on somebody, but if they have the inside line and you're going up the banking, it's really difficult to make that move stick. Jordan trying, big mistake there from Jordan, and the stewards are going to have to look at that. Jordan trying the side draft, getting it all wrong, and whipping Jamal Gandor around into the wall. And unfortunately for Gandor, that is the end of his opening race. He will be fuming at that, Ronan.
Yeah, I was just about to come in there and say that it looked maybe like Jordan had some damage maybe from that earlier incident in the horseshoe, and possibly Jason as well, because they're not kind of climbing as fast as possible. But that was highly unusual for a driver of Jordan's pedigree. Like, I'm kind of stunned that it happened. I'm gonna pull a replay just to see exactly what happened there, because it didn't seem like a very Jordan thing to do.
Yeah, very unusual as Ronan gets up to replay here. Jordan going round the outside of Jamal Gandor. It looked like he tried to get some side draft and just getting it all wrong, getting into the rear right corner of Jamal Gandor and fishtailing him into the outside barrier. And knowing Jordan, he'll be putting his hands up and apologising for that. these are the sort of things you do see quite often in the official servers, people getting things wrong, but unusual, as Ronan said, for a driver of Jordan Kelly's caliber to make that mistake. Now we see them, Jordan on the outside, and he's trying desperately to get the draft on Jamal. He knows he has the overspeed. He knows on a lap-by-lap basis he's faster. And just, I think coming off the banking, Ronan, just slightly losing it maybe a touch and then trying to overcompensate, and it ended up sending him into the rear right corner of Jamal Gondor. And unfortunately for Jamal, he's the one who finds himself, his race ruined really by Jordan.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one to the stewards. I'm not entirely sure. We'd have to check the inputs of Jamal as well to see was there any movement there. Oh, that's a big one.
Big instant there, Jim. I was just about to say Dylan McClement's feeling the pressure of Jeff Richardson and Sean McGoldrick, and now the two of them getting into each other. We have four in amongst this, and all of a sudden, from being the positions completely changed. Kevin Joyce now into third position, but he's Brandon McGaughan right inside him. He's going to have to cede that position. Can he stay in the inside? Yes, he can. Good stuff there from Kevin Joyce. Really excelling this season is Kevin Joyce, and I think the standings don't quite do him justice over the course of the season, but it all started back in the opening turn, T1. Dylan getting a little bit deep in the braking, probably looking in the mirrors a little bit under pressure from both Sean McGoldrick and Jeff Richardson. Going wide, Richardson and McGoldrick going slightly down the inside, but three just can't go into that series of bends. Dylan managing to sneak out in front, and then the other two going into each other. Oh, that's dangerous stuff there, as weaving is Kevin Joyce to try and make sure he keeps the inside line, and Brandon goes down the inside and he hits the back of him, does Brandon, but he manages to hold it together, but he's going to lose a huge amount of speed, and that's going to invite Sean McGoldrick back into the proceedings here. But yeah, McGoldrick involved in an instant with Richardson, both of them going off, and then Richardson almost careering into the back of Dylan because being forced onto the grass, he missed that tyre grip, so locking up his front tyres and almost careering into the back. As we see John McGoldrick, he's ahead in the standings. He's going to make that place. And Brandon is slowing down. I wonder, does he have a slowdown, Brandon? He cut through the last corner there in the bus stop, and I think he's going to have to take a slowdown, which sees him cede the place to both Jeff Richardson and Sean McGoldrick, and potentially even Conor Melia. If Melia can get it, no, he can't. Brandon just manages to stall out of place, but he gets deep in the brakes and again almost into the back of Jeff Richardson, and it's very hectic, very helter-skelter in these cars. These guys really finding it difficult, even this late into the race, to try and get themselves any sort of consistency on the braking. This is really interesting stuff. Melia going down the inside of McGaughan, as we hear Jordan Kelly is out of the first heat, so an absolute disastrous result for Jordan Kelly, who I'd really hoped would be kind of inching his way back into the championship, probably outside an opportunity of actually winning the thing, but certainly trying to improve his position. This is him going up against Peter McCann, going around the outside, and already starting to lose it there is Jordan Kelly. The TC is kicking in, he hits the inside curb. Against the barrier, the pit wall, Jason Smith takes evasive action, and Jordan Kelly says, I've had enough for race one, so he will start race two right down the back of the grid. Really disappointing stuff for Jordan Kelly. Now we're looking at Kevin Joyce. He's had a much better race, has Kevin Joyce. He's up 9 places, started in P12 and now in with podium chance. Be interesting to have a chat with him potentially later on, as we see Ronan Doherty leading from front to end. Ronan called it once he got out ahead. Ronan, after all that opening lap nonsense, he powered through and taking a massive win in this, 3.3 seconds ahead of Dylan McClements, who can count himself very lucky, particularly in that final sequence, having made that mistake on the final lap, almost getting caught out by the pair, and with all that kind of shenanigans going on in the background, didn't get caught up in it. Here is brother Sean going through to down in P, whereas he's P17, disappointing for Sean McClements, but good stuff for Dylan. A real big statement of intent there, particularly with Jason Smith's woes in that opening race. Great opportunity for Dylan. Now he's opened up an even bigger lead at the top of the championship, and with only 2 rounds left after this, potentially looking to open up an unassailable lead. And Kevin Joyce, what a fantastic race it's been for him. Superb battling from Joyce, particularly alongside Brandon McGaughan, who ended up losing out to both Sean McGoldrick and Jeff Richardson late on in that. But fantastic stuff for Kevin Joyce, finishing P3. Then we have Sean McGoldrick started at P4, finished in P4, certainly occupied different positions along the way in a not so uneventful race for him. Here's Jamal Gondor. In fairness to Jamal, after that incident with Jordan Kelly, he's flashing his lights as he comes back across the line. And Jamal's a regular here, a great competitor, and a long-time sim racer. Great to see him get back in the car and finish out, providing an example to perhaps some of the other drivers in this race. As we look at the Heat 1 results. So, Ronan Doherty taking the opening race and the 25 points. Am I right in saying? It's bad. It tells you how long I've been away that I can't actually remember that. Jordan, anyway, Ronan finishing P1, then Dylan McClements, Kevin Joyce, Sean McGoldrick, Jeff Richardson, Brandon McGaughan, Conor Melia, Logan Hoy, Peter McGann finishing in the top 10. Jason Smith then finishing back in 10th, which was a result for Jason at least getting some points on the board after that early mistakes. TJ Taff in 11, Tony Stack, Rory O'Shea, Diarmuid Toomey, Philip Upson in 15th, Simon Hutchings, Sean McClements, Jonathan Hollywood, Jamal Gondor, and indeed Jordan Kelly finished all the way down the bottom of the timing table. So that is indeed not only your results for race 1, but also your grid for race 2 as we get ready to go again here at Daytona International Circuit. Ronan, as we grid up here, I'll just bring you in shortly. What have we, and more importantly, what have the drivers learned, do you think, in that opening race?
Heat your tires conservatively. Sorry, I had to give that dig in. Well, yes, that, and I would imagine some form of patience and let these tires come up to temperature is the massive one. And like the major winners of that race were indeed all of the ones that avoided all the carnage. Like I said, Ronan, second Ronan gets out in front. He has a tendency to dominate. If Dylan can kind of catch him on the hop sometimes, yes, fair enough, he'll get up there. Massive race from Kevin Joyce there. Like that's a couple of races in a row now where Kevin has maybe not had the qualifying speed, but definitely had the pace when it comes to the actual race itself.
Former driver of the day, Kevin Joyce, of course, over the series on the 17th. That was our last race in Silverstone, am I right in saying? So Kevin building on his excellent form, and yeah, third place finish in that race, particularly coming from where he was, is fantastic. But again, has to be careful here. Surrounded by guys who on paper are faster than him, you would say. Some fairly aggressive tire warming going on there in the background from that's the number 17 car, Logan Hoy. Behind him is Jason Smith, who's just saying, please don't do what I did. We've already had a formation lap incident. As we get going for race 2 here in the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup, and Kevin Joyce going down the inside here. He's going to try and hold on to his third place position, but he looks like he might get done around the outside. From McGoldrick getting tags. McGoldrick spins around, and some good damage collision out. Has all gone carnage there. Jordan Kelly involved in that again. Looks like that was Simon Hutchings again involved in that. Sean McGoldrick spun around in earlier incident, and Diarmuid Toomey back in the back. Jamal Gondor ended up there. Jeff Richardson involved in another incident as well. It looks like Brandon McGaughan and him had got tied up. Peter McCann getting involved in that as well. Oh, Ronan, it's more carnage here on lap 1.
Yeah, I think we might have jinxed that a small bit. I don't think the lads learned anything from the first race, which is a massive shame. Just looking to see who's the massive pickups there. Jason Smith up 6 places already. Like that's Jason going to be gunning now for the top 3.
Yeah, Jordan Kelly up 10 places to 10th. I thought Jordan was involved in one of that incident. We honestly, we'll have to go back and maybe have a look at that in between race 2 and this race and maybe race 2. Or we can have a look at it now, perhaps all together going into T1. So McGoldrick goes around. McGaughan makes instead. Then Jamal Gondor turns upside down. Simon Hutchings bounces off him, which bounces him into Jordan Kelly. McGaughan goes out as well. I didn't quite see that, lost it on the grass, and in front of him Jeff Richardson also losing a place, as Jason Smith now up to 3rd position, Kevin Joyce down to 4th. Yeah, just a kind of a accordion effect, really, sort of a domino effect. Once one went round there, it's a tight enough section. You see evasive action. And in fairness to Jordan Kelly, I wronged him there because I thought that he had actually been involved in it, but really, he was just taking evasive action and just ended up getting doored by Simon Hutchins, who himself was taking evasive action. So really, couldn't pin any blame on anybody there. Just unfortunately, one car turning the wrong direction in a very, very unsuitable part of the track, I think it's fair to say. Simon Hutchins in the pits, along with Jamal Gondor, Jonathan Hollywood, Diarmuid Toomey, and Philip Upson, all in the pits after that. It's going to be a bit of a difficult one now in pits for those 5 drivers. As we go back and have a look at the overtake of Jason Smith on Kevin Joyce, it looks like it's going to come into T1. Kevin Joyce finishing 3rd in the last race, and doesn't fight Jason too much. I think Kevin understanding that he's doing really well here. He's building on what's been a great start, and there's no need to fight too hard with the potential championship winner. Good, it's mature stuff there from Kevin Joyce. Nice to see it in amongst all the other madness, just to leave Jason's go by. And now we expect and hope for a battle between Jason and Dylan McClements, but Jason has 1.2 seconds to make up on McClements if he's to potentially force a move and pass. Now, Brandon McGaughan involved in that earlier incident. We saw him spun round going into the International Horseshoe. He's trying to make up places here. He's down 5 overall, so not too bad, as Peter McCann just eases up and allows him through. Peter's taking the outside line here, and you can get a little bit of draft from the wall, but with the longer route around the oval, it usually does make more sense to go down the inside. So I think Peter just allowing Brandon past him there, knowing that he's faster on paper and trying to run his own race. Brandon goes slightly deep into the corner, which allows Peter back. But I think he's going to hold off. He's going to leave Brandon go ahead. And yeah, it's good driving there from Peter McCann. I'd like to see that from Peter. Just a little bit of wise head on old shoulders. Emphasis on the old for Peter McCann. There to leave Brandon go through. Simon Hutchins back up into 15th ahead of Rory O'Shea. We've seen a few of those guys now coming out of the pits. Diarmuid Toomey, Philip Upson, they're a lap down. Jamal Gondor is on the same lap, but only just about, as Ronan Doherty continues to lead this race here at Daytona International Circuit. Do remember, have a look on Motorsport.ie. If you are checking out, it's a big silly season here as we look forward to the next coming season, 2025. Leinster Trophy again, and a few other big meets in Mondello and Kirkstown, amongst other places. So plenty on the agenda in Irish motorsport. Of course, we have the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship starting up again soon as well. So Motorsport.ie, if you want to keep an eye on everything that's going on in the real world. But at the moment, the virtual world certainly making up for what we are lacking in the real world. And a good tactic there, number 56, that's Conor Melia, just bump drafting Logan Hoey at the moment, the two of them working together. Now this is a bit of a tricky one. It's when it works, it's great, but when it goes wrong, it goes spectacularly wrong. But both of those managing to make it through, and good work from Logan, just managed to get the car slowed down in time. That is a mistake often when you see cars bump draft, the overspeed from the bump draft. They don't really expect it, and then they go deep into the next corner, trying to make up that gap on quite a substantial gap. Kevin Joyce, it's 6.8 seconds between Hoey and Joyce, and it's 4 seconds between Joyce and Jason Smith. So a long way out of the top 3 are the 5th and 6th. Now Jason Smith, speaking of P3, he's caught up with Dylan McClements here, and he's going to mount a real challenge. We still have plenty of time on the clock, only 5 minutes or just over 5 minutes gone in this 15-minute race. So Jason still has another 8-ish laps, if my calculations are correct, to mount a challenge on Dylan McClements. And again, Ronan, Jason this time managing as well as he could to avoid the carnage, putting himself in a position now where he can put maybe a bit of pressure on Dylan and indeed Ronan Doherty, because Ronan isn't quite running away with this race in the same way that we saw with Heat 1.
I was just about to say, yeah, Ronan hasn't had an obliterating start and got away from Dylan, but Dylan being under this much pressure from Jason now, Dylan has a solid head for this kind of stuff. Jason's a very, very aggressive driver, very, very late in the brakes pretty much everywhere, so we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah, interesting to see how Dylan deals with this, as you say, Ronan, because here we see now their move. There's Jason Smith down the inside. He is indeed late on the brakes, Danny Rick style, but makes the pass go, and I think Ronan, it's fair to say that Dylan didn't fight him too much there, realised that he's already made a huge gain on Jason Smith in the opening race, and whatever losses he may take from ceding that position will be more than made up for then in the work that he already managed to do in race number 1.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that Dylan will sit behind him here. It is putting, considering Ronan's pace ahead, it is going to be putting a lot of pressure on Ronan. And ooh, that's a bit of a slide there for Jason actually. But with Ronan, I think Ronan is in a bit of danger here now as well. But it looks like Dylan might just sit as close as possible and take advantage of that slipstream.
Yeah, and it's a good idea as well, because this is only from me speaking as an amateur driver, but you'd much rather be looking at somebody in front of you in terms of pressure for 10 minutes than to have somebody in your mirrors the entire time weaving around, flashing their lights. So there's nothing worse than having somebody behind you and trying to preempt what they're going to do, not really having an idea of what they're going to do. And also, as you say, the slipstream effect, it will give Dylan an opportunity to potentially lift off a little bit. That's a mistake from Jason Smith, though. He's gone deep into that corner and he's having to take the slowdown. For those of you not overly familiar with iRacing, if certain corners on certain tracks, if you cut the corner and you are adjudged to have gained time, you must give that time back. But unfortunately, attempting to do that often ends up losing more time than you actually gained initially. So it can often see guys, a little bit of door banging there between Logan Hoey and John Melia. They were friends earlier on, Melia providing the push for Hoey, but this time I think Connor's had enough. He's decided that it's about time he takes the head position, because he's not making any ground, even by bump drafting Logan. I think he tried doing that for a while. He's realised now that he's better off on his own, try and on raw pace alone see if he can catch up with Kevin Joyce in 4th position. And again, speaking of Kevin Joyce, Ronan, a very mature, well thought out race from the number 12 car. 3rd position, down a huge amount from where he started, or up, should I say, a huge amount from where he started, as Logan Hoy goes wide there on the 2nd horseshoe. But a real mature race from Kevin Joyce in the 12 car, and consolidating that 4th position. He's in a good spot here, Ronan. He doesn't really have anybody in front or behind. He can kind of run his own race for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, fair play to Kevin. Kevin's a hard racer, very hard man to pass, and his sim racing skills have jumped exponentially in the last couple of months. I've actually met him in real life recently for the first couple of times. Really nice guy. So yeah, his racecraft has come on massively, but like you said, he's got his thinking cap on and not being too. If it's adventurous the word, or is it just conservative? I can't tell.
Brave, I think, or bold, perhaps is the word you're looking for. Yeah, Kevin Joyce proof that nice guys don't always finish last. As Dylan McClements, again, fending off Jason Smith. He's allowed Jason Smith to go through there now. We might be able to go back and have a look at that. Jason overtaking, potentially in the S curves there. I wonder, did Dylan get T1 slightly wrong and just allowing Jason Smith to go by? Because obviously ceded the position earlier and then was kind of forced to retake it really when Jason went wide and had to take that off track and that slowdown. Now let's see, certainly has a position for the moment, Dylan, going down the inside but running wide on the corner. And yeah, I think really Dylan lifting there, I would say, if you were to look at the telemetry on that 88 car, I think you would see a big lift as he went across that curb. I think trying to give Jason as much space as possible, but also running himself over what's quite an aggressive curb, but allowing Jason through. So Dylan, again, playing the long game here, through P3 and P4 playing the long game. Looks now with that mistake from Jason Smith, that will take the pressure massively off Ronan Doherty, who's building on that 1.4 second lead over the course. It looks like Jason is faster over a single lap, but he just can't cut out the mistakes, Jason Smith, this evening. And unfortunately, that's just enough to do him in, I think, for this second heat. Be interesting to see, though, where other people end up. Jordan Kelly, as you say, finding it difficult so far. He's up 8 places, but he's stuck behind Peter McCann at the moment. His last lap was 1:37.7, which is about a tenth off P1 Ronan Doherty. He's around 5 tenths off P2, Jason Smith. Jason Smith is the fastest man on track at the moment, clocking 37.2s. But yeah, Jordan finding it difficult. I think a bit of a disappointing round for Jordan, really. I think he was really hoping to get back in amongst it, even if not over the course of the championship necessarily, but just to show that he's in and around it. But that obviously early mistake in race one, and we say it often here with the format that we have here. If you make a mistake in race one, it really has an effect all the way through. More of a chance to make it up tonight with a smaller grid size than what we've seen previously, but still an opportunity. Here's Tony Stack running well. Is Tony in P8 for Team Whiskey? He's 4 places up from P12, and just running consistent laps here. Very few instant points against him as well. So doing really well is Tony. Can always consider himself happy to be in the top 10, Ronan.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony's sitting on reverse grid right now, so that'll be a nice little start for him. Um, from I don't know if you've seen much of the action over the season, Kevin, but when it came to the reverse grid, the top 8 was so strong that some drivers would break through from 8 to say the podium places again. But for example, I'm almost sure that Kevin Joyce was on pole, or sorry, he was on pole from reverse 8, and he actually went ahead and won that race from all the squabbling that was going on behind. So I am an absolute advocate of the reverse 8, because it really shows, you know, racecraft can be above complete and utter pace.
Absolutely, and it challenges that racecraft. You look at people like Jason here, who's probably out and out potentially the fastest round here. I know didn't qualify P1, but certainly clocking in the fastest race lap times consistently. But you know, there's no good being a great around single lap pace if you can't pass, and this is what this championship forces you to do. You can't just quali first and lead from the front and do that, you know, do a Max Verstappen and do it for 18 rounds in a row. You have to show that you're capable of making your way back through the grid. And it's a great, it's really what distinguishes RTA. As you know, there's other series potentially out there that have great drivers, but the RTA really forces those drivers to knuckle down. And yeah, it's a really great format. Jason Smith now, as you see, P2. He's found it difficult in the bus stop before. He's cut it quite tight there, but I think he's made that pretty much perfect there as Jason Smith. But he's followed all the way by Dylan McClements. Only 4 tenths behind is our championship leader as we come around for the final lap of this race. I think Ronan will see the white flag as he crosses here. Just about. Yeah, we just about have one more lap here at Daytona International Speedway, the road course here for our second lap of, our second race, should I say, of round 6 of the Motorsport.ie RTA LMP2 Cup. More bump drafting here as Logan Hoey and Conor Melia go at it once again. We saw last time Conor was quite firm in his defence at T1, and now Brandon McGowan trying to go around the outside of Sean McClements. And no, it's Tony Stack actually. He manages to make that move ahead of Tony Stack. So Stack's in 8th place indeed. Brandon McGowan seems to be gone down to 10th position. Yeah, made a mistake in T1 and now back down to 10th. He's got deep in the horseshoe as well, but unfortunately behind HT Taff isn't quite well enough positioned to capitalise on that. So we're coming into the oval now, and Ronan Darty is ready to complete his last section of corners before he crosses the line here. He'd just be hoping for avoiding any slowdown, although with a 2-second advantage, he should have enough comfortably as the clock ticks over now, as we said, into the 15-minute point. So Jason Smith now has Dylan McClements behind him. He has to make sure he gets this one clean to make some sort of gap back. It's a slight kiss against the wall there, as he just cuts that one tight on the second curb, manages to get it done. Now Dylan might have the run here. Will he go for it? It looks like he will actually. Look, he's going to try and have a go for it as we see Ronan Darty in the distance about to capture his second victory of the evening. Great stuff from the DDR driver, leading pretty much the entirety of the last 2 races, as we see Dylan trying to mount a challenge on Jason Smith, but it's not going to happen. Jason Smith crosses second, and Dylan McClements, the top 2 in the championship, finished 2 and 3. Ronan Darty once again topping the timing tables. Now, Here is Conor Melly, he's finished in 5th, Logan Hoy in 6th, and Sean McClemens. And here is Tony Stack about to cross the line in 8th position. He's getting tight, but just about manages to cross the line, does the number 19 car, and he will start on pole position for our feature race. So 1st to 8th swap around, so 8th goes 1st, 2nd goes 7th, etc., etc., etc. So Tony Stack will lead the grid. So as we see Simon Hutchings come around, Simon unfortunately involved in incidents in first 2 races along with Jamal Gandor as well. Both of those having disappointing evenings, I think it's fair to say, this evening. But so for our feature race, it will be Tony Stack, then Sean McClemens, Logan Hoy, Conor Melia, Kevin Joyce, Dylan McClemens, Jason Smith, and Ronan Doherty. And then from 9 onwards, we'll have Jordan Kelly, Brandon McGaughan, TJ Taft, Peter McCann, Jeff Richardson, Sean McGoldrick, Simon Hutchins. As we look at there, John Malgandor, Rory O'Shea, who's on your screen at the moment, in the High Prix number 1 car. Dermot Toomey, Philip Upson, and Jonathan Hollywood, all of whom, actually Jonathan, who didn't even get through, how many laps did we finish in the end? He didn't even get through 3 laps. He ended up 8 laps behind the leaders. Rory O'Shea crossing the line there. So, those are your results for race number 2 of the 6th round of the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup here, presented by Gantry TV. Jordan Kelly, or sorry, should I say Ronan Doherty, finishing top once again. Jason Smith in 2nd, Dylan McClemens in 3rd, then Kevin Joyce once again. It's not a strong race from Kevin Joyce. Conor Melia, Logan Hoy, Sean McClemens, and Tony Stack. And I believe that Ronan Doherty may join us for a quick chat between both races. Ronan Doherty, some things change, some things stay the same. Been away for 8 months, and every single time I seem to interview, you're in here, so that's a good sign for you. Race wins, the first 2 races, a lot of carnage. Talk us through what it's been like from your point of view.
Yeah, just sort of the first lap's very important. The tires are very cold and probably helps being at the front of the grid. And to be fair, I mean, Jordan spun on the first race when he was in the lead, and to be fair, it's quite hard when you're leading, and the cold tires are very, very difficult to manage. It's almost like when you're driving in the wet. You know, if you're the guy going first, everyone behind you can see what's happening and adjust. So just about managing that, and then trying to stay consistent and not get any slowdowns, not make any mistakes, and just manage the gap, not pushing like crazy. Just try to really manage the lead from there.
Starting P8 in the final race, have you concerns given what you've seen thus far about being caught up in potential lap on carnage?
Yeah, well, definitely always concerned in the third race. But look, sometimes it's a matter of fate, so let's just hope luck's on the side.
All right, well, very best of luck in the final race. Ronan Doherty, Team DDR driver, our winner in race 1 and race 2. Hopefully we get to be joined now by Jason Smith, championship 2nd place going into this evening. But Jason, unfortunately, I think, Jason, is fair to say a disappointing night thus far, particularly the opening race. Kind of talk us through what happened. Did Magnussen hit you on the formation lap?
Yeah, I think I just got a notification from Red Bull or something like that when I looked down, and just then I just seen a wall facing in front of me, really.
So is this? Are we saying that you were texting while driving in the LMP2 Cup? Is that what we're admitting to here, Jason?
Not so much. I got a notification on the phone, and I just stopped weaving, and then I just see the wall in front of me. Just a lack of concentration, really. Shouldn't really be laughing, but yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, that's why they say keep phones out of the cars. It is a difficult one to drive, isn't it? Like, I mean, we're seeing just a lot of difficulty here from all kinds of drivers, even yourself. Like, unusual to see you, I suppose, even spin out of your own accord. Like, it's a tricky combination, particularly with the track temperature.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's like driving on ice on the first lap. As you seen from when I went off in the first lap, I just they checked up a little bit, and I didn't want to hit the brakes harder because I knew I'd lock up and then create chaos in front of me and hit everybody. But yeah, no, it's just about battling the first lap really, and then waiting for the tires to get warm, and then they come really good, and then then they go off. But everybody's in the same boat, so.
Yeah, and just before we let you go, because I know you're grading for the future race, you're in a difficult spot now, particularly given the opening race. You've lost a lot of ground to Dylan, which means you're going to have to be on the attack. But it is difficult to try and be aggressive in these cars.
Look, it's like always. You just have to kind of take all the opportunities you can get and just kind of be be aggressive and try yeah muscle your way through the field and see the opening gaps and just go for it.
Well, you'll have plenty of opportunity to do that in the final race, starting P7 after a P2 result in the second race. Jason, we're making up some ground at least. I suppose you'll be hoping to make up more in the final race. Jason Smith, thanks again for joining us, and hopefully be chatting to you after the final race.
Thanks very much, guys.
So yeah, just some thoughts there. Ronan, I haven't heard that one before, I have to say.
Unfortunately, I have. That's the worst part, and maybe not in RTA, but definitely in races that I've been involved in. Not excusable, I suppose, is probably the only way to put that. Yeah.
I mean, you have to admire the honesty all the same.
True.
You know, other drivers would say, I just overcooked it or whatever. But Jason just said, yeah, I was completely distracted. I wasn't looking at anything I was doing. And there you go.
Yeah, I just saw Sean in the comments there on YouTube asking how's it going. I said manic. He said, I asked how is it out there for him, and he said, I don't know, I was in the wall. Props to Jason. So I think that kind of summarized that mistake per se. Do we even call it a mistake anyway?
Yeah, a bit disappointing. As you referenced there, Ronan's in around the comments. Do join us in the comments. You can subscribe to us on Gantry TV and have your say on what you're seeing in front of you, whether that's got to do with the drivers, the track combinations, or indeed ourselves. Very happy to pick up on what's going on. Kyle Irvin, thanks for getting in touch. Unfortunately, the snowstorms have affected lots of us around the country. Particularly my county of Cork has been badly affected. My thoughts, particularly with the people of Charleville, who seem to be absolutely struggling big time with what's going on at the moment and the surrounding hinterlands. But unfortunately, Kyle Irvin's another. PCs is another unfortunate, what would I say, victim to the snowstorms we've had around Ireland. An orange warning again tonight. Obviously, you're doing the right thing by watching us here, staying in, staying warm, staying safe, staying out of your car. At least in real life, certainly do as much virtual driving as you want. But if you're going to do it, don't do it, Jason Smith. Stay off your phone. So we grid up for the final race of this evening, the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup. It's round 6 here at Daytona International Speedway, and we start with Tony Stack, number 19 car in the front grid, joined by indeed Sean McClemens, should I say, in P2. Then Conor Melia, Logan Hoy in P3, Conor Melia P4, Kevin Joyce in P5, Dylan McClemens in P6, our championship leader. P7 is Jason Smith, and P8 Ronan Doherty, who has a lot of work to do if he's to become a 3-time champion this evening, but certainly making a very good stab at trying to get his way back into this championship. So that's how we start. Tony Stack's run a good race, managed to just about fend off the people you see around him for P8. Sorry, should I say not the people you see around him, but P9, P10 for P8 in the opening race. Let's see if he can make it count as we wait for the lights to go green here at Daytona International Speedway. This is the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup presented by Gantry TV. Do give us a subscribe and a like on the video. Just pushes us in front of more eyeballs who may have an interest in what we humbly think is the best racing league in the world. Tony Stack gets underway and he's off quick. He's certainly caught the others by surprise as we haven't even gone red and Tony's already pinned his way to the accelerator. He has a 8/10 gap already going into T1 as the others are left scrapping in the background. Kevin Joyce going down the inside there of Jason Smith. He's going to try to make that one stick. Yes, he just getting a little bit squirrely on exit. That's not really what you want to feel. As you see, that is a big spinner. That's Conor Melia going off in the distance. I don't think he's collected anybody else, though. Melia spinning out of his own accord, almost taking out the championship leader, Dylan McClemens. McClemens managing to hold off, but that allows Jason Smith to get in ahead of Dylan McClemens in the 88 car. So unfortunate there for McClemens, just caught up with something. We see spinners in the background. That's Jamal Gandor again. Jamal really struggling this evening, and Sean McGoldrick way down the back as well. Jamal really struggling, and again spinning out here. It's really disappointing one for him. Sean McGoldrick down 4 places, Jamal down 3 places, Conor Melia down 12 places from that spin we saw going into the International Horseshoe. Yes, into the International Horseshoe. As Jason Smith tries to pin down the accelerator as much as he can, you can see how much the car's waving in the background. These P2 cars don't have ABS. Oh, a spinner in the background. That is TJ. That is indeed TJ Taff, who's just about to talk about it. There is TC in these cars, and that gives you the impression that you can pin the throttle a little bit more going into the exit of that corner, but there's absolutely no grip, because not only is there very little grip because that's not a regular racing line, but also there's no grip because you're changing literally from a flat surface onto a bank surface, which makes it really difficult for these cars that are so dependent on downforce. It's a very low speed corner. There's little downforce in it, and the TC can save you in some ways, but not always. As 3 guys go head to head, that's Jordan Kelly, Ronan Darty, and Dylan McClemens. 3 very quick guys. Jordan, I think, has given Ronan a little bit of a push here, and Dylan's being left to hang to dry. Jordan's been involved in a few incidents, but manages to get through cleanly there as the 2 DDR teammates go side by side. Ronan Darty trying to go for a 3rd win. Dylan McClemens just trying to consolidate his position at the top of the championship with 2 rounds to go after this. There's not a huge amount of racing left in this championship, and Dylan could become one of our youngest ever winners in RTA if he manages to hold on to this. But speaking of holding on to things, Tony Stack started in first from P8. Ronan talked about it earlier that Tony did so well the last time he finished on pole from a reverse grid, and he's managing to hold on to it. There's a little kiss in the back there from Sean McClemens in P2, but Tony doing well enough to just stay ahead. Sean, of course, has Jason Smith to try and contend with it. Tony goes wide, and I just gave him the kiss of death, Ronan. He goes wide, and that allows the other 2 through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's again, we're what, lap 2. That just shows the tires here, and especially it seems to be that corner in particular. Just as they enter the oval, it seems to be people are planting the foot too early, and it's just spinning up the tires as they go onto the oval. It does not like it. As Jason takes a very weird line through there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. He's been called out a few times as Jason Smith from the bus stop. It's a very, very tricky corner, particularly when you're already low on grip, as we see Jordan again giving Jason a bit of a push in the back. These 2 have bump drafted quite a bit over the course of their iRacing careers, so they should be fairly well experienced. As you can see, Jordan just locking onto the back of the DDR car in front of him, as you see a few cars splayed out there going into T1, different lines you can take through this. As one goes out in the distance, that's Kevin Joe. No, it's not. It's Ronan Doherty. It's our winner from race 1 and race 2. I wonder, was that caused from the bump traffic that was going on as Logan Hoey tries to capitalise there now? He's in P3, he's got down the inside, can he get 2 in 1? No, he can't quite on Sean McClemens, as Tony Stack has been dropped back now to 5th position. Jordan Kelly got into 4th. Oh, they've come together, and Jordan trying to hold on to it, but he just can't. The 2 of them coming together, Tony and Jordan Kelly, and now Jordan's right on the racing line going crawling speed, and Peter McCann having to take offensive action. Simon Hutchins going down the inside, and I was just about to say that Jordan Kelly had made up some ground on what has been an otherwise disappointing evening. He gets involved with Tony Stack. Now this is the incident with Jordan and Ronan Darty, so Jordan pushing Ronan at the moment, and just a late touch. That's a frustrating one for Ronan, because Jordan obviously bump drafting him along, but once you get into the corner, any sort of contact between those 2, you're going to send him off, and Jordan just not willing to hold back, and then comes round, having pushed Ronan Darty off. He comes down the inside, and here's Tony Stack, and actually, I think that's on Tony Stack. Tony had plenty of room on the left-hand side. Jordan pretty much occupying the middle of the track, and Tony trying to get across to open up the next corner for himself, but unfortunately, Jordan was already there. There's nothing he could do. Sean McClemens goes wide coming out of the bus stop, and he has to take a slowdown, and that's going to allow his brother Dylan through, which Sean won't necessarily mind, given that Dylan's in with a great chance of winning a championship. But Ronan, a few incidents there, I think fair to say, again, not that there was any intent on Jordan Kelly's part, but Jordan fault for number 1, and potentially Tony Stack at fault for number 2.
Yeah, I'd have a tendency to agree. Looked a bit odd that he would make a move where he was. Yeah, I have a 100% tendency to agree with what happened there. Just wondering, Jason up 6 places already, and we've actually missed the overtake on Sean, sorry, that's who I was trying to say, was that it was Sean at the time, and now Sean's down under 2 places since then. So yeah, Sean not having great luck with this car, I don't think. Just doesn't seem to be gelling with it at all. I think anything that kind of has weird brakes per se, Sean does have a tendency to struggle with. Has come on massively, obviously, but yeah, not a great championship for Sean so far.
Yeah, and very tricky. I mean, I really don't envy these guys. Especially, I mean, I haven't driven the P2 since the update, so not really massively qualified to talk about the handling from a driver's point of view. But if all these guys are talking about how difficult it is to drive, and some of these are some of the highest I-rating drivers in the service, it's, you know, it must be very, very tricky. I mean, these guys really are in the top echelons of drivers. And I think if you were to load in the same car and the same similar settings, you're looking at it thinking this is easy. I can guarantee you this is not easy. This is like, this is quite fittingly like driving on ice, given the conditions that we're experiencing around the country at the moment. As a bit of a tight one there, as Logan Hoey almost gets together with Sean McClements. And Sean McGoldrick again, I'm just having a quick look down. Sean way down, like way off the pace. A very disappointing evening for him, given the fact that he was running up around the podium places in race 2, but his whole evening has just gone to pot since that incident. Kevin Joyce in P6, be disappointed with losing out a little bit there. I think he got caught up in some of those shenanigans on T1, but managing to consolidate P6 at least, having had a very good opening race, as Brandon McGaughan keeps him at bay. Now Peter McCann in 13 car, no longer sponsored by a window company, but still proving to any potential future sponsors, not a window company. My apologies, got that one wrong. Earn Tiles, that's what it was. Thank you, Ronan, for reminding me. Earn Tiles. Who could forget good old Earn Tiles? No longer sponsored by Earn Tiles, who pulled their sponsorship, unfortunately, but pulled their sponsorship, which they were never even aware of. But still on the market for any... but still on the market for potential future tiling or building supplying partners, if anybody wants to contact Peter. Just don't ask them to do a demonstration of any of your products, it'll go horribly wrong. Logan Hoey now, speaking of things going horribly wrong, tried to put pressure on Sean McClements, but ended up going deep into that corner and allowing Brandon McGaughan through. So Brandon into P5 in the number 15 car, and does an instant. Kevin Joyce going off there. I was looking down to check the numbers and I got that wrong, but it looks like a P came together with Logan Hoey and Kevin marooned in the middle of the track. Some really good evasive work, particularly there by Peter McCann coming around the international horseshoe to avoid a bigger incident. But it looks like the two of them came together. We might get a replay on that, as Conor Melia, now another man who was involved in a T1 incident, tries to make his way back through the field. He's in P8 at the moment. So let's have a look at that. Kevin Joyce had a good evening thus far in the number 12 car. He was looking there at a mistake that allowed... Oh, he gets up in the inside of Logan Hoey, and that's a mistake from Kevin. You can see the way the car's pointed, not really in line with where the corner is, and Logan comes around the corner, and I think Ronan did give Kevin Joyce enough space, but Kevin unfortunately locking up and just going straight into the side of Hoey's Ferrari painted number 17. So disappointing one there for Kevin Joyce. He had a really good evening thus far, but a big mistake here there from him, and that sees him and Logan Hoey both out of the final feature race. As we go back to the middle of the pack, Ronan Doherty, unfortunately again another man who was caught up in an instant, being bump drafted by Jordan Kelly and then being punted off at T1. Thankfully, at least for him, plenty of runoff there. So managing to get himself back involved in the race is Ronan. He's obviously taken race 1 and race 2. If you've joined us thus far, if you haven't, welcome. Thank you for joining us. The like and subscribe buttons are right there if you do fancy giving us a bit of support, and you can subscribe and get involved in the commentary and in the chat, where we've been joined by a wild Evan Dalton, our commentary sidekick for most of the time, one half of Kevin, as coined by our other commentary sidekick, but Kieran McGinley. But Evan said he's Logan. I think that's bit of Logan Paul going on there, I think, as Ronan makes his way around T5 and tried to put a little bit of pressure here on Tony Stack. Tony, unfortunately, started in P1, finished in P8 in the second race, which reverse grid gave him P1, but unfortunately couldn't make it count. And he's currently running back in P8, a position that he occupied in the last race. And I would be surprised I would be surprised to see, should I say, Tony Stack occupying that place come the end of the race, given the pace that we've seen Ronan Doherty apply so far. So it'll be interesting to see how much Ronan can make in the next 12 or so minutes, or sorry, 8 or so minutes, as Peter just gives it a friendly little bump, and Ronan's going to get a bit of PTSD here, because the last time this happened, he got punted off at T1 by Jason Kelly. So, Jordan Kelly, should I say. So at this time, Peter doing the sensible thing and laying off. And Ronan with the overspeed tries to go down the inside of Tony Stack, and he's a day late and $1 short, as a certain F1 commentator would say, but he managed to just about make the move, mainly due to Tony Stack allowing him through, really, more so than Ronan's own racecraft. I think Ronan will admit that himself, but Tony doing a good job of jumping out of the way and avoiding any potential contact, because I could see Tony facing the wrong way there if he had been a little bit more headstrong about it and stuck into that position. Jason Smith leading us here. You can see the gap at the top. It's 3 seconds to Dylan McClemens. So they went into this evening first and second of the championship. Dylan holding the lead, and a reasonably substantial lead in that, and then adding to that quite substantially in the opening heat. Jason admitting himself that he looked down at his phone and then spun out in the formation lap, got back, and then immediately spun out again. Didn't blame the phone the second time, though. I think it's fair to say, but ended up way down the grade of the opening race, with Dylan finishing in the podium places. So that's really given Dylan an opportunity to extend his advantage, on whatever gains Jason makes by finishing ahead of him of both last race and potentially this race will certainly be negated, if not overawed, by the losses that he had in the opening race. So overall, Dylan can consider it a good evening's work, even if he didn't manage to pick up a win in any of these races thus far, but still time for him. The 3.1 second gap suggests that it's going to be very difficult for him. Peter McCann now coming up on Tony Stack, and these two are RTA veterans, I think it's fair to say, and two men that a lot of people in this grid can thank for getting them involved in the series. Peter trying to go around the outside of Tony here as the two wise warriors. It's like Gandalf and Sauron, isn't it? Like the two wise warriors battling their way through. Peter managing to keep the inside here, and just about, can he get through? No, he can't. Oh my god. Somebody called the Mater Hospital. These two are about to have a heart attack. A little bit of a touch there between those two, but fair play to Peter McCann. That is potentially overtaken the evening, I think it's fair to say. Kept the throttle in it, kept it clean between the two of them, and then stuck it down the inside of the second horseshoe to take the advantage. Ronan, that's a very, very high shout for overtaking the evening.
Absolutely, that was great, and we do love a multi-corner side-by-side action that is clean, fair, and downright dirty when it comes to a good move. Evan calling, I'm assuming he's calling Peter Gandalf here, trying not to make a "you shall not pass" comment, but
yeah. Well, I mean, if Tony had managed to stop him, then it may have been Tony that was the Gandalf. But in this situation, Peter winning the day, which I think is what happened in Lord of the Rings, fair to say. Brandon McGahan, anyway, coming through. He's battling against Jefferson. It's not a very up and down race, Jeff. He's been involved quite a lot at the top, but then he's also made quite a lot of errors and been involved in a few incidents. So a bit of an up and down day for the number 9 car. As again, Logan going side by side. Can Logan unlogan Logan? Yes, he can. Manages to keep off Simon Hutchings there and holds on to 11th position. Now that battle for P4 again, we're focusing on here. Brandon McGahan, he's been involved in a lot. both of these guys have had very, very busy times of it this evening around Daytona. Plenty of instant to talk about, and plenty for the stewards to get their teeth into come the end of this race. So potentially the results you see as Brandon goes a little bit squirrely there in exit, and then once again trying to apply the power a little bit too early there. I think he's going to do enough to hold off Jeff to going into the bus stop chicane as we head into probably the most famous corner in Daytona. I think it's fair to say, and you know, it's the most important thing is to know where you're going.
Full stop left entry. Full stop left entry.
So that's what we have as the two make their way through, and Ronan Doherty, I think he's going to make a pass here. Yes, he does. Conor Melly getting it all wrong and getting a slowdown there on the exit of the bus stop, and Ronan Doherty making his way through to take P number 7. I'm not back very long, lads. You'll have to excuse some of the poor attempts at punchlines here. Ronan managing to hold on to that place, but it looks like it's going to be challenged as we see Jeff going round the outside and he's squeezing Brandon in there. Brandon locking up in the background, but Jeff going deep into the corner as well. So all's well that ends well between those two as Jeff tries down the inside again, but just doesn't have enough to really put pressure on the number 5 car, who holds on to 4th position. Brandon up for 6 places, Jeff up 8 places, and behind them, the number 1 High-Pre car, as you see in the distance, Rory O'Shea, up 11 places. So good runnings for all of these. The only man down really in the top 7 is actually Sean McClements, who's down 1 place from P2. Jason Smith up 6, Dylan McClements up 4, then brother Sean up down 1, but +6, +8, +11, and Ronan Doherty +1 before we get to Conor Melia, who's down 4, but still down 4, given the fact that he spun on the opening lap, is not a bad result at all for Conor Melia as we take away 2.5 minutes left here on the final feature race here in round 6 of the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup, presented by Gantry TV in association with RTA Motorsport. Do check out RTA Motorsport on Discord. You can have a Google of them. You'll find their Facebook page, and indeed that link you to their Discord. This sort of racing happens every 8 weeks. Getting there. Every 8 weeks with a week gap in the middle. So plenty of racing, different tracks, different series, different cars, different challenges, different drivers, but still the same standard every single week, and you'll always get top presentation by Gantry TV, sound effects included. Here's Jeff going around the outside of Brandon. Can he make it stick this time? This is an ongoing battle between these two. Brandon going slightly wide there, losing a little bit, but managing to get back to the inside of the corner, which fends off Richardson in the number 9 car. Both of these running privateer cars for this series. And all this battling is really allowing Rory O'Shea back into it, Ronan. This is an opportunity for Rory, potentially, if these two get muddled up, he could go from P6 to P4 in a very short matter of time.
Yeah, Rory had 2 abysmal races, which isn't very like Rory, especially with his standings in the championship at the moment. But to be up 11 places and contending for another one, and I can see him contending for it. I know there's only probably a minute left in this, but I can see Rory trying to push as much as he can because he needs those points and he cannot afford to drop round.
No, he can't indeed. Rory pressures on the High-Pre car. The High-Pre Sim Race City, to be exact. But obviously the High-Pre car, we've seen them across championships here at RTAs. We look at Jason Smith going through the bus stop. So we will have, again, just short of the lap, I think. So we will have one more lap that will make it 13 laps, if I'm right in saying, over the course of this feature race. So we've had some really good racing, some really terrible racing too, let's be totally honest, if we're being honest with ourselves. But some very good racing, exemplified there by the battle between Peter McCann and Tony Stack earlier on. But also some fantastic drives with Kevin Joyce in some of the earlier races. Ronan Doherty again finishing up the top, and I think Ronan would be challenging up the top if it wasn't for that incident earlier with Jordan Kelly, which really you couldn't really blame Ronan for. When you have somebody pushing you from behind, the onus is on them to make sure that they don't touch you in the corner. So Ronan doing his best to try and get back to Rory O'Shea, but I think he's going to run out of time here to be involved in this battle. Jeff's really struggling to get past Brandon McGaughan. Good drive here from McGaughan in P4. Really excellent defensive effort from him. Jason Smith, of course, finished P2 last time around. Oh, Dylan McClements, big mistake from Dylan McClements. He's gone around the outside and he's after conceding P2 to his older brother. there's nothing worse. There's nothing more annoying than a younger brother to lose out to your older brother. They beat you at everything when you're younger, and you finally get something that you're better at them as. And Sean, that's in buck past. That is a very interesting one. I'm not sure how team orders work at RTA. I would certainly that's like a Rubens Barrichello Ferrari moment of years ago. For those of
I was literally just about to
remember.
put in and say exactly that. I was just about to say it's very Schumacher, Barrichello.
Barrichello. And I think Dylan has potentially got a slowdown here. He seems to go right across the curbing there on the final corner. So as we look at Jason Smith coming across the line, and the number 26 car, it's been an awful start for Jason Smith tonight. But a fantastic end for him, winning the final feature race here and crossing the line. P2 is Dylan McClemens, followed by brother Sean in P3. Then Brandon McGaughlin is just about to cross the line, and a fantastic drive from Brandon in that one. Formula Ford 1600 Supremo and former winner, showing all of his talent there, holding off a really stern challenge from Richardson and O'Shea from behind. Unfortunately for Kevin Joyce, a bit of a disappointing race for him, having done so well in the opening races, but still an outside candidate for driver of the day. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Send in your driver of the day candidates for this evening. Of course, we did double race win by Ronan Darty. This man on screen certainly won't be in line for winning it, unfortunately. Jamal got torn the 961 car. It's been a bit of a disastrous evening for him. But you've Jason Smith finishing P2 and P1. You've Ronan Darty finishing P1 in race 1 and race 2. You've Dylan McClemens, another great showing by the championship leader, although Neville Smith says fix there. I wonder, is he talking about the ceding of position by Sean to his brother Dylan for the last race? And another couple of good drives as well, Kevin Joyce in amongst them. So our feature race results in P1, Jason Smith winning again, building on his race 2 second place by winning the final race here, ahead of championship rival Dylan McClemens. Sean McClemens in P3, both DDR cars again finishing on the podiums. Brandon McGaughlin in P4, holding off a very strong challenge from Jeff Richardson in P5, and indeed Rory O'Shea in the High Prix P6. Ronan Darty then won race 1, run race 2, but unfortunately this evening in the final race being pushed off, I think it's fair to say, by Jordan Kelly, but recovering for P7. Then Conor Melia, disappointing one for him really, a spin on after T1 in the opening lap, saw him relinquish any chance of finishing on the podium. Finished, followed by Peter McCann, whose move again on Tony Stack in P11 was fantastic. Logan Hoy finishing in amongst them. He could have finished much higher, but unfortunately found himself caught up in an instance. Then P13, Simon Hutchings, again, another one who was involved in that T1 incident on the opening lap. Diarmuid Tui in P14, that's a good running from Diarmuid, who had a disappointing evening up to that point. TJ Taff. Then after that, we Philip Upson, Jamal Gandor, Sean McGoldrick, should I say, Jordan Kelly, and once again on in P20 is Jonathan Hollywood. So, in amongst all that, we'll have a quick chat with Jason Smith. We already had a chat with him earlier on, so we'll keep it short because we have two guys on who we haven't spoken to thus far. We'll have a quick chat with Jason Smith about a victory. Jason, really good race for you. Start at P7. Again, carnage in front of you. You talked about kind of worries, naturally enough, of what was to come, but you managed to take advantage of it, keep your nose clean, and I suppose really recovered from what was a disappointing opening race to end up taking almost maximum points in the final 2 races. If Jason is with us. Okay, well, while we wait for... Oh, here he is. Jason, are you alive?
Yeah, no, I am. I was just getting a charger for the headset.
Yeah, you weren't distracted by your phone this time. I thought you might have told us you had another notification. I don't know, did you hear the question, but I suppose a good recovery from yourself, almost maximum points from a very disappointing opening race now to have finished P2 in race 2 and P1 in race 3. It's been a good end to you tonight.
Oh yeah, no, it's from what it started, I didn't think it was going to be a good night, but no, I recovered well. It's a good bit of racing and just kept me nose clean, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And you look at all the carnage that went around you. It's funny because I was talking to you in the interim, the last race, about being aggressive. But funnily enough, with these cars, you don't necessarily actually need to be aggressive, do you? You just need to kind of bide your time and wait for other people to make mistakes.
Yeah, kind of. That's really it. Keep it in yourself, not spin yourself, and just put your car in the right place where you can get good traction on people where they're struggling for grip on the first couple of laps.
You managed to claw back some of the advantage, or the losses in the opening race. Do you still think the championship is alive for you with 2 rounds to go?
Oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. We're only getting in. We're not getting into the interesting bit just yet. Maybe the last round, and we'll get the elbows out a bit more. But no, the last race was interesting because the last 3 laps, I had no sound for the. That's why I was late coming on to the broadcast because I had to try find the charger to get it charged again. But no, yeah, it was a good race.
Oh, Jason Smith, what are we going to do with you? Thank you very much again for speaking to us. And again, indeed, your refreshing honesty, Jason. We really appreciate it every time. Other drivers would make some sort of other excuse, but in fairness to you, we always hear the truth from you. Go away, do some practice, charge your headset, and turn the phone off, and we'll see you next week. All right?
It's going to be in a different room next time. Thanks very much, lads.
Once it's
Have a
not
good
the
one.
inside of Mount Joy, we're doing all right. Jason, congratulations on your race win. I'm going to bring in your championship rival and indeed his brother at once because I want to talk to these two guys together. It's actually not that often we get to talk to both of them together. And I'm actually going to start with Sean. So first of all, Sean, my Twitch stalker, thanks for having a chat with us. Congratulations on P3, but should it have not been P2?
Well, to be honest, it could have been P1 very handy, I think. The mistake was my own, to be honest. Like, at the end of the day, I had a wee bit of a gap and then just locked the wheels and went straight on at the first corner. But after that, the lap times were good. There was the last couple of laps there, I think it was catching Jason by like 3, 4, 5 tenths consistently, like was catching Dylan a couple of tenths a lap. So I'd say without that mistake, probably could have got the lead. But if not, I'm not in the championship anyway. Like Dylan would have been third, I would have just slowed down and let him by anyway. So if I wasn't winning it, I was always going to get third. I wasn't going to take P2 off Dylan. So
Well, I mean, that's what we saw last lap, or I think it was last lap, fair to say. Coming onto the oval, you overtook your brother, and then, I mean, I know as an older brother, you have to, there's always the onus to try and look after your younger brother, but it was very Schumacher Barrichello-esque. I know you're not probably old enough to remember it, but still.
yeah, well, Dylan, he made the mistake and into the corner, and it was actually safe for me just to overtake him than to try and slow down and avoid him. Like, so I just overtook him, and then I was like, well, there's no point in me taking P2 here. Like, I'm not. Again, there's no championship in it for me. I'd really be taking points off him, like, especially when he's leading it. So, I think the best thing for me to do there was to just let him by, and well, done that. Like, as much as it pained me.
I was going to say, Dylan, you must be. What do you owe your brother tonight? Have you promised him anything to thank you for giving you the championship points?
I haven't promised him anything, but he's been a big help the past couple of championships when I've been doing the championship back in the V's and then this championship as well. I owe him quite a lot, but I don't know what I could repay and all that. But
Just stop taking my V seat off me.
Don't agree to anything there, Dylan. All right, just don't agree to it. Just yeah. But going back to the race, Dylan, obviously, like, it's been a really profitable, I think it's fair to say, evening for you. Jason making a few mistakes in the opening race, and I know that I suppose I know you probably hate me saying this, but like a wise head on young shoulders, in that we see some other drivers battling every corner, but I think you kind of understood that you kind of had your work done in race 1, so you could leave Jason off a little bit in race 2 and race 3, knowing that like you had such a big advantage over him in race 1 that he was never going to claw that back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the point in battling the championship with the championship contender. In case an incident happens, and then I could get knocked down. So especially when I got that gap at the first race. See, I'd rather rank up my points instead of trying to go for the win if it's a bit too risky and all. But I'd rather step behind and try, just regain them points when they make the couple few mistakes.
And I suppose, look, it's like the advantage is on your side now. You only have what, 2 nights, should I say, left after this. That's 6 races, of course. Like we have, what do we have now? We have 2 more races left. That's what Road America, or sorry, Road Atlanta, should I say, next, and then we go to Brazil for Interlagos for the final round. So, like, you're in a very good standing. Do you feel sort of a bit of pressure, a bit of expectation, being maybe potentially the youngest winner of RTA? Is that crossing your mind at the moment, or are you thinking about what it will feel like being the youngest winner of an RTA championship?
See, none of them thoughts have hit yet because I've been in the last championship. I've been leading from a gap, and then the last 2 races completely ruined me, and I lost the championship. So I'm just gonna try keep my cleanest and hopefully come out as top. Being RTA's youngest winner, it won't surprise me as much. It won't startle me as much. Like I know, like if everyone was this young, I would say they probably had the pace with some of them. But being youngest RTA championship winner would, be an achievement.
Well, it would be a massive achievement, and you'd have you're definitely for tonight, and as you say in some previous championships, your brother Sean to thank. Would you at least get him a curly whirly or something?
I mean, I could try. Like yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll if I get him something, but I owe him quite a lot.
Well, I'll leave you guys figure that out. And Sean, again, thanks again for joining us. And congratulations, a great drive. I think you kind of got what you deserved in terms of getting a podium out of that one later on. And Dylan, once again, a really impressive drive mentally as much as anything else. And we'll see you again next week at Road Atlanta for potentially securing your championship.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. Hopefully that happens there next week.
Perfect,
So
Kevin.
that's
Cheers.
cheers, lads. Those are the McClemens brothers, P2 and P3 in our feature race, flying the DDR flag very, very well. Thanks to everybody for joining us on the chat as well. It was really, really picked up in the last while. Ronan jumping in, and Evan, of course, jumping in as well. We wish Evan all the best. He's not feeling great. He's just a little bit under the weather, so unable to join us tonight. But forward to resuming the famous Evan next week, hopefully. Ronan, I'll just bring you back in for the last, or I suppose the last word here. Again, just impressive from Dylan McClemens. Really impressive, I thought, mentally as a drive. Ronan Darty obviously winning the first 2 races. Have we any thoughts on driver of the day? Leo Richardson getting a shout here from Evan Commons.
Yeah, I think Jeff Richardson. Jeff Richardson had a good, stable evening. A lot of battling. Seemed to be very clean for the majority, and yeah, he's had 3 good finishes this evening. Looking up and down the grid, there's a lot of movers, bar the usual few in the podium. But like myself and Evan always say, we like to give it not to an underdog, but like an outsider that did particularly well. So my shout would be for Jeff.
So I think I'm very happy to go with that. It's been a very good race, consistent. I caught up on a few incidents, but very consistent over the course of the evening. So Jeff Richardson is our Gantry TV, Motorsport.ie, or in the order, order if you prefer, the Motorsport.ie Gantry TV, driver of the day for round 6 here at Daytona. So onwards we move, onwards and inwards and further inland to Road Atlanta from one IMSA track to the next. Although we will still be with Daytona on the mind, with next week being a couple of days leading into the biggest special event of the iRacing calendar. Thanks again for joining us here on Gantry TV. Remember to like and subscribe. Please do. Particularly like. I know if you're subscribing already, very much appreciated. But if you click that like button, it just, again, brings the series out to more eyes. And you know how the YouTube algorithm works; it can be a bit strange. So we might end up connecting with some monks in Tibet or something like that. Ronan, thanks again for joining me, and thanks for yourself and Evan. Just want to take this opportunity to say one or two things before I go. First of all, my many thanks to yourself and Evan for keeping the thing going while I was away. Been a long time away, but very, very glad to be back. So many thanks to yourselves for keeping the ship sailing in my absence. But also, I just want to another thing that I suppose happened while I was away, and I wasn't able to properly mention it on stream, and I know it was mentioned on stream probably quite a bit in my absence. But just Eric Cunha again, obviously, you know, uh, he was a guy who really exemplified carrying on despite everything else, and I was very saddened to hear the news of his death. I know a lot of people were, and it's fantastic that a bunch of Irish guys can connect with a guy across the Atlantic and to be so invested in him. And kudos to Lawrence for the Potato Nation and for everything they do in terms of that community that they have. And I know a lot of people in that community are racing here. So I just wanted to put on record from my own point of view just how much of a loss he is to the series and how much we miss him, and how I think his passing is a reminder to us all how A, unimportant sim racing is, but B, how important sim racing can be, and how important it can be to connect us with people and for us to check in with each other. So yeah, that's all. I just wanted to say that because I was away, I kind of missed his passing, and I just obviously all of our thoughts are with him. And I think, to be fair, going forward in the series, our thoughts will always be of him whenever we maybe take things out of proportion or we start to lose the run of ourselves when it comes to racing. But yeah, that's it from round 6 of the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup in association with ourselves here at Gantry TV. Thanks again for joining us. Remember, you can check up on all the latest motorsport news on Motorsport.ie. Plenty coming up right across the motorsport spectrum as we get back into the new year. You can check out RTA Virtual Motorsport online. Just have a Google of them there. You'll also find their Discord. Well worth joining, even if you wanted to join for the last couple of races. If you like what you see, you can join in for the last 2 races and then kickstart again next season, which is to be announced what we will be racing in very shortly. But yeah, from all of us here at Gantry TV, have a great week. Have a good weekend. Stay safe if you're in Ireland and you're suffering some of the effects of the weather. And until next Tuesday evening, slán go.